Don't hiccup.
Don,
That's my name.
we're live.
We're live.
There you go. We got
David,
He
Don,
don't
and
know
Mark
he don't know
West.
how alive he is, does he?
That's right. That's right. For once in the whole year we've been doing this, I got my clicker, my barely awake coffee mug. Get it? Barely awake
Belly awake.
with a little bear on it.
Got everything
This-
plugged in.
The Bible,
Wow.
my my Sharpie, unless this is wrong and I can fix that somehow. And we got the professor over here looking as cute and cozy as ever. I would pan over there, but quite frankly, I'm too lazy. Unless you want me to.
No, I told you. But Don can have it all.
Don can have it all.
You shouldn't have said anything earlier.
Oh.
You could have tricked me too.
No, I'm only doing this because the phone that I got, I can press record, and it scares me every week because one pop up that says cannot record video, storage full. This way, it don't save to my phone. It'll be like that, and you can still edit it, which is pretty cool.
But only afterwards.
Yeah, only afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Don, you got anything to say before we get started?
Nope, let's get at it.
So once again, we made a mistake. I made a mistake, and what we casted from last week, it did not go through. So we're going to briefly cover what we covered last week. I got slide number 335 on my hand, just in case I get tired of going over, and I'll quickly skip to it. But for the meantime, we'll be in slide number 274. And last week we talked about petrification. Well, let's kind of... Oh, and also the quality's a little bit better. Do you recognize that?
I do.
Yeah. It's good. So...
I thought it was because I lost so much weight I could fit in the picture.
No. That's actually... Is that better?
That's good.
So, it is a petrified water wheel. Like I said, we'll kind of whiz through this real quick. It would help if I turn it on. I have a PhD.
Do.
Yep. Push here, dummy. So there are several interesting things found in rock that is petrified. Petrified wood from a forest in Arizona. But David, you have something interesting that you say. Why don't you tell everybody about what we say about how archaeologically that doesn't prove the flood, like what we're doing.
Because, and geologically,
Yeah.
and none of that proves a flood. Partial or worldwide.
I agree.
You agree?
I agree with that.
What you are doing is giving a science lesson.
This is that's true.
Yeah, we're studying science.
Yep.
But that's what Ken Hovitt did. That's why we're going by this stuff.
Yep.
He got the science and he tries to match it up with the Bible.
But
You can't pull nothing out of the Bible that's going to match up with geology and archaeology.
I agree.
He's just putting material out there.
yeah. But anyway,
It's made for some interesting conversations too.
yeah,
You got a fact. There's been a few things that's come along that, well, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know nothing about dinosaurs.
You don't?
Still don't know a lot about
Oh.
dinosaurs.
Well, there was that part where the cow becomes
Yeah.
amphibious and it goes back to a sea creature again.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, we'll get into that tonight. Actually,
Interesting.
this chainsaw was petrified. You know, they find all kinds of things like this real that was petrified in rock. The real in the rock, it says. And there's museums all over the world. This is the mummified dog sunk in a tree. You know what his name was?
What was his name?
Stucky.
Stucky.
Yep.
Okay.
And
Petrified boots with a leg in it.
petrified cowboy boot. And a mother ichthyosaurus giving birth, fossil, and they say that this is what happened millions of years ago.
Hmm.
But thank God it doesn't take millions of years to give birth, right?
That's right.
A petrified hammer, petrified hat, a fossilized
Still in labor pain.
crayon, yeah. A petrified pincushion, petrified man, which we'll spend a little bit of time on this. So a guy died, a grandpa died, and they buried him. So later on, his wife died. So they came and had the memorial, and they noticed that grandpa, his arms had rotted off, and his body was turned to stone, petrified. So they said, well, we might as well move grandma over here. Later on, they decided to go back and move grandpa to grandma. So his entire body was covered. It was totally petrified in stone. It's interesting. And that's all this is saying.
If he'd been buried today, that would have never happened.
Right. A petrified man.
You know why?
Why?
Because they use steel caskets and vaults now instead of back then they buried them in pine boxes
That's true. That's
or
true.
no box at all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A petrified man, 5'7", and weighed 356
That's a big boy.
pounds. Yes. So.
That was Goliath going sideways.
Yep. Petrified flower. And this is pretty cool. A petrified pickle. That is interesting. And there's petrified toadstool. We could go all day on petrification. The story with this guy is he left some acorns in water and forgot about them. And a year later, his mom found them and said, "Hey, this is
You got
pretty
big
cool.
rocks."
You know, you got these acorns petrified. How about petrified peanuts? You know, you got all kinds of petrification. You know what this is, Marquez? That is a jellyfish. But you don't want to put him on your peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Well, I'm stinging you.
Don't want him to sting you. But they have found Mr. Jellyfish petrified in some places. See, also scientists create petrified wood in days. Yahoo News, that's an article on that. Petrified teddy bear, petrified hat, petrified rope. So, why are most reptiles found in the same layer? Doesn't this prove evolution? Thoughts?
Doesn't prove evolution.
We covered this last week, but let's just, again, kind of whiz through it. Students are taught that the layers are millions, and also going to kind of whiz through this, we already covered this previous, millions of years different in age, and that fossil sorting represents evolution. So let's get to that chart right here. Yep. So you got Why aren't animals sorted by layers? Habitat, intelligence, how smart is the critter, mobility, or body density. So, the clams are not too bright, by the way. If you're a clam out there, sorry. But if you're a clam, you're going to be buried first. If you're a land creature like a lion or tiger, you'll be
Second layer,
you'll be one of the
lower layer.
lower layers because they'll try to find higher ground, and then later on you get the birds. It's interesting, but considering we covered all of this, let's kind of just move on. Cavitation at Glen Canyon Dam in Arizona. Bird, mammal, reptile, amphibian. That's the way they say that everything happens. And I've heard some evolutionists say that history repeats itself, so this will eventually happen again in 4.4 billion years from now.
Okay. I'll be anxious to see that.
I'll be anxious to see that too.
I hope I live that long.
Yeah. So, talking about the flood, Ayers Rock in Australia is probably a giant sand plume from the flood. What do you think, David?
Well,
There it is again.
if the two guys that did a simulation, young Earth creationists, did a simulation on the speed of the water flow during the flood, then ain't nothing can be covered or anything. It's all going to be washed away. You're not going to have landslides. The water's rushing too fast. You're not going to have landslides. So nothing can be covered.
I don't need this anymore. We're all caught up. Cool. Okay. Genesis 7:19 states that all the high hills were covered under the whole heaven, which we talked about this before. Very, very cool to hear from someone that believes in a partial flood. 15 cubits upward did the waters prevail, and the mountains were covered. And this is interesting. I don't think I pointed this out last week. In the King James, it says, God remembered Noah and every living thing and all the cattle that was on the that was with him in the ark, and God made a wind to pass over the earth, and it assuaged every living thing and cattle. This guy says in the NIV version, the non-inspired version. You heard that?
Yeah.
But God remembered Noah and all the wild animals. But what we mentioned last week, we don't think that they were really wild. They were all friendly, vegetarian. Did you say that you agree with that, or what?
Well, in a partial flood theory, that could still have been wild. Because if, like I said, if you got the water rushing like they said it's supposed to be rushing, you've seen just a small amount of water take away a house.
Yeah.
A flood. Imagine this is a whole lot greater.
True.
Well, it's going to take away all your plants, trees, and everything. So
If it was moving that fast, I don't know how they can prove how fast it was moving.
True.
well, like I said, all you gotta do is look at floods today and how much it takes for water just to move a house off its foundation and send it on down the river. This is worse than that.
Yeah.
And then if the whole world is covered, then your plants and vegetation are going to die.
True.
It ain't gonna have, and it's not going to recover in enough time to feed the vegetarian animals. And the only way you're gonna feed vegetarian animals is through a partial flood.
Where was it flowing from? all the water's coming down all the way around the earth at one time.
Well, not necessarily. You could, I think I discussed about how, levees work, floodplains, how the lower Euphrates was flat, how it could stay flooded longer if it goes over it. It'll take it longer to drain off because it's, when it starts draining, it's still on the other side of the levee. That water's gonna stand there. It actually ain't gonna run off. It's gonna have to dry up,
Yeah.
and it can back it up all the way up to Euphrates, all the way up to the mountain. So if water starts backing up, it starts rising.
True.
If I pour water in the glass fills up. It don't slosh around and go everywhere unless I shake the glass. And it just fills up.
Yeah.
If that canopy around the whole world opened up and the water came down, it would fill up.
Well, see, I did a little research on that. In Genesis, where it's talking about the water separating from the water. It's lighter water that's being separated, which forms clouds and fogs. It's not talking about water like it covers the earth. It's talking about clouds and fogs and things like that. That's what a cloud is water.
Yeah.
All it does is has to take the right temperature and stuff for it to drop its drops. Now, if you ever gotten up one morning and it's so foggy you couldn't see, well, the water wasn't separated from the water right then. Only during the day, as the sun beats down, will that water separate the water from the water.
That's interesting.
And I can read to you here.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I brought you the verse, that verse in the complete Jewish Bible. And it says, God said, let there be a dome in the middle of the water. Let it divide the water from the water. God made the dome and divided the water under the dome from the water above the dome. That is how it was. And God called the dome sky. So there was evening and then the morning the next day. There was no dome around the earth. There was no water up here. It depends on how it's translated.
Depends on
Dome,
how you want to interpret that.
the word dome, expansion, firmament, that can all be substituted.
Yeah, they can be substituted. Yeah.
So the dome, all it is the ozone layer. That's all it is.
Can you make me a copy of that?
Now, you can have it. I know where to find it.
Okay. I have to. I want to dig into that. That's an instrument. Psalms 104.
Oh, my favorite.
Verse 5 and 6.
I know. David, since it is your favorite, you want to read it for us?
I can't read it or you're in the way. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. And you know, we have no time limit, so stop me if you have anything to point out or anything. Who laid the foundations of the earth, that it should not be removed forever? Thou coverest it with a deep as with a garment. The waters stood above the mountains. Anything on that quite yet, Dave?
Now keep going.
All right. Well, like David and Hugh Ross and a lot of other teachers say that it was a local flood. So, where did all that water go? So, go ahead, Dave. You got anything?
It just trickled off.
Trickled off?
Look how long it took. You know, it rained 40 days and 40 nights, but it took almost a year for it to disappear.
Right.
That's
Did-
a lot of runoff. And of course, you got evaporation.
Right. During the last few months of the flood, the unstable plates of the fractured earth shifted. The thin spot sank down to become the ocean basins, and other places lifted up, resulting in the mountain ranges that we have today. The runoff caused huge erosion canyons very quickly. Psalm 104, verse 7, at thy rebuke they fled, and at the voice of thy thunder they hasted away. And verse 8, why don't you read that for us, buddy?
They go up by the mountains, they go down by the valleys into the place which thou hast founded for them.
They go up by the mountains and they go down by the valleys. The mountains arose and the valleys sank down. Anything on that?
Nope.
So they go up by the mountains, they go down by the valleys. The mountains arose and the valleys sank down. So
But you can't use that as the flood theory.
I agree.
The world flood theory that's a partial flood theory.
That's talking about the creation,
The
right?
whole 104 is about creation.
Yeah.
right.
So if you use it for the flood, the worldwide flood, you can't use it.
And you say that you agree with that?
I agree with it.
Okay.
I agreed with that all along. 104 is about the creation. It's not talking about the flood.
Here's some other verses
In my
out of
opinion.
Psalms 104. It says, he causes the grass to grow for the cattle and the vegetables for the labor of mankind, so that they may produce food from the earth. That was verse 14. 19 says, he made the moon for the seasons. The sun knows the place of its setting. Verse 20, he appointed darkness and it became night, and all the animals of the forest prowl about. Verse 24, Lord, how many are your works? By wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your possessions. Just about the whole chapter referring to creation.
Interesting.
So when he talks about the mountains coming up and the valleys going down,
That's him creating.
he's creating land.
Oh, okay. Huh.
I would like to interject. I'm of course old Earth. I believe it's
Yeah.
really old. I look at when he created the trees and told them to produce fruit of its own kind.
Mm.
He got the thing started. Mother Nature takes over. He doesn't have to do anything else. It's the same way when he makes land and makes it form. He got it started. He let Mother Nature take over.
So he created everything
He
as a
just-
seed.
It wasn't instant for everything. He just got it started and let Mother Nature take over.
So Adam and Eve were babies and had to grow up. Is that what you're saying?
No, their generations were produced by being born. They weren't. It's
Yeah.
just it's the same thing. It's
So
the
they
same-
were created grown.
Yeah, this is
So all the trees, all the grass, all the birds,
they
all
were,
the animals were
they were created grown,
grown, so they could.
but they had to
reproduce.
produce their own produce from themselves to keep going.
Yeah.
So you got to let Mother Nature. He lets Mother Nature take over after it's all put out there.
Cool.
It didn't take millions of years,
But
in my opinion.
well, all I do is look at Mother Nature and see how.
Sure, I'm glad it don't take a million years to have a baby. I think it happened very rapidly.
Well, it may have took 1,000,000 years to get up to Adam and Eve when he made them.
Yeah, I don't believe that. I think he created them like he said. He created Adam and placed him in the garden. It was full grown, and Eve was full
I
grown.
believe that too.
And they started having babies to start with, and the grass started growing, and the trees started budding and dropping seeds. And
Well,
in Genesis chapter 5, it says the earth was a mess, basically, because
Yeah.
there was nobody to take care of it. So it grew like
Well, it said,
like crazy.
it said on the third day, he put the trees and the plants, and they didn't have no sunlight.
Yeah.
There wasn't no plants or nothing until the fourth day. And when you get to the creation of the earth and the water, he's got to have an atmosphere starter so you can have life. Because in science, we're gonna use science, trees put out oxygen. So that,
And we breathe oxygen. I know too, in the beginning of Genesis, it says he created the light. And I've often wondered what that was, because the sun and the moon and the stars came later,
Yeah.
like you were talking about.
But it says that God is light.
Yes.
That could be a way.
go,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
It's been a question on my mind for a long time.
Yeah.
well, it's like I always said, the end of Revelation is finishing what was lost in Eden and in the creation.
This is true. Yeah, he's right. He's
Yeah,
right.
the curse is lifted
Definitely.
in Revelation.
You won't need nighttime then.
Yeah.
So where's this light coming from? It tells you it comes
Comes
from
from
God.
God, yeah.
So at least for up to the third day, that light had to be from God, just like it's going to be in the end.
True.
I understand that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's Romans or Corinthians about how it talks about man can look at nature and see its creation and know there's a God. And if they ignore that, then they're in trouble.
Yeah, you hear that a lot when people say, what about somebody that's never heard of God? Can he cast them in the lake of fire because they never heard of him? Well, it says, look at the earth around you and you'll know there's a God. So,
They,
he created it.
they
Whether he
reject him.
created it in a million years or
Yeah.
we'll never know.
It's there. You know it's
Yeah.
there because you can see it.
Yeah. And man can't create that.
That's true.
It had to be a God.
Now, he may tweak it and make something come out of it this way, and he can graft a branch into a tree and make it grow something else. And
Yeah.
he,
But you
he
can't.
can do some crossbreeding with animals, and
You can't create that
it's not,
stuff. though.
he just
Yeah. You're taking what God already created and tweaking it.
Yeah.
You can't create it.
I wonder if man does that out of curiosity or trying to make a buck.
I don't know, but I'm glad they made concrete.
Yeah.
I think that was the Romans that come up
May have
with that.
been. They say that Rome had some of the most elaborate sewer systems that the world has ever
Well,
known.
them highways they made,
Yeah.
they use concrete pavers,
Mm-hmm.
big ones.
Yep.
So in this diagram shows you the crust of the earth about 30 miles thick under the continents and only 3.5 miles thick under the oceans. Now that's in string. The earth is still settling from the flood about 4,400 years ago. Pensacola has had little chance of earthquakes, so the earth is busted up like all the faults. As the mountains rose up and the water ran off and caused tremendous erosion through the still soft sediments. So remember,
He must be using Psalms 104 again.
Yeah.
oh, is that what it is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's using Psalms 104 right there.
But yeah, but that's talking about creation though. So I don't get how that.
That wasn't creation. That's using Psalms 104.
Yeah, that's creation.
Mhm.
Dealing with creation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's using it as a flood.
He using it as flood there, making fast erosions and stuff.
Instrum. But anyway, 2002 flood in Canyon, Lake New Braunfels, Texas. But there's no. How would you like to be on the road crew for that?
Mm-hmm.
Build a bridge.
Yeah.
Go
Back
over
up to
it.
show how fast the water was moving, because
Yeah.
that was 2002 flood, 30 inches of rain in 1 week.
Yep.
Spillway
Just think
overflow.
how faster it would flow
Yeah, whatever that word was.
if it did that for 40 days.
Yeah.
and 40
Jalapa
nights.
River. Yeah.
But there are still floods, today. But the river called the canyon 1 mile long, 50 plus feet deep, and hundreds of yards wide through the solid limestone rock. So pretty much what this is saying is erosion.
Limestone, though, is kind of like soft rock.
Yeah.
It's kind of like sandstone. It don't take much water to erode that.
Yeah.
You can do that with strong.
You can
do
spit
it with
on
a fire
that.
hose.
You spit on that, and it'll erode.
Yeah.
You know, with a fire
The Burlingame Canyon in Washington carved in 6 days. That's interesting.
That's a lot of spit.
I know. Slick Rock in Arizona. Is that a thing? Is that an actual picture?
hose. That's pretty, whatever. it
That's
is.
Photoshop.
Was Photoshop?
I've never been there.
But yeah, I want to go. The Three Gossips. Which, if you think about it, if you.
Oh, like a pair of britches.
Right here?
Yeah, it does, don't it? That one.
Oh, yeah, that one? Yeah.
Looks like it come out of the 70s with them bell bottoms.
Arches National Park in Utah. That is pretty cool. Y'all ever been there? You ever been there, David?
Not Utah.
Bryce Canyon. Millions of years of erosion. Let's say if you were to let's go back over to this canyon. Let's suppose that you were to create a dam and fill up this entire canyon with the river, the Colorado River. I'll just use that as an example. I don't think this is Grand Canyon, but that would take a lot of dirt,
Or concrete.
or concrete. A lot of yeah.
Hoover Dam.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Cracks in it.
And
Yeah, them earthquakes put cracks in it.
Yeah.
and do it again. Now it's interesting that the Grand Canyon. I heard an evolutionist say that whenever it rains, the rain, just like what you're saying, is it's cutting is eroding the water, the canyon.
So the rain coming down.
More so.
All that.
Well, it's not only doing it at the bottom, it's doing it on the side.
On the sides, exactly.
If anything that water hits, it's just going to wash it down.
Right. So is this millions of years of erosion? Here's a pin for scale. They say that this takes not long at all. Erosion. Millions of years of erosion along a highway built only 2 months ago.
You're assuming it's erosion.
Assuming it's erosion.
Why not assume God created it like that?
Right.
Could create an erosion.
Yeah. God.
Yeah.
And what? And it's part of Mother Nature.
True.
Yep. Trying to figure out how it was done, but God did it.
Yeah.
That's how it was done. Whether erosion or he just
Well,
spoke the word.
that's like saying, why did God put that water right there where it's at, why not put it somewhere else?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
You ever
true.
heard that saying, that's a heck of a place to put a stop sign? They don't want to stop there. Why you put a stop sign there?
Yeah, right in the middle of the interstate.
Yeah, really. Oh,
So it's interesting right here is
well, they said the clay can't tell the potter what to make out of it.
Yeah. This is a picture of Dry Falls.
Washington.
Do y'all know anything about Dry Falls?
Never been there.
Do you, Dave?
Never heard of it.
Well, back 4.4 billion years ago, this used to be an active waterfall.
Who said?
The evolutionists. Science textbooks.
That I'll never know.
Yeah.
Lies in the textbooks.
So there you go. So flood washed out in eastern Montana. Most mountain ranges follow the coastlines. Now that's interesting. You see, they follow the coastline. All the mountains do.
You just did one hemisphere. Go back to the other, show me the other hemisphere. Where's the mountain ranges in them? Where's the Alps at? Is it on the coastline? No.
Is it?
Nope, it's right there above India.
Yeah.
Oh.
Kilimanjaro, I don't think it's in Africa. I don't think it's along the coastline.
Right. But this is just talking about the Americas and South America.
We did say most mountain ranges.
Yeah.
Didn't say all.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, erosion is very in-stream. This is a road cut in West Virginia. Never been to West Virginia.
I've been through there.
Yeah. Brent rock layers from Lake Ohachia AR. Is that Arizona? And the question about all of these is, did this form over a long period of time, or is it simply by erosion from, if we're not talking about a global flood, like a flood in this region, you know?
Well, so you can have a flood in that region and then do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
But I
That
think
could
they're
happen.
trying to
You
use
could
that.
have more than one time.
I think
Yeah.
they're trying to use that to prove the point of a global flood. And I'm not sure
True.
you can do that with that. You go back to the same thing. How do you know it was from erosion? How do you know it was from water to start with?
yeah.
May not have never been a drop of water on it.
True.
But then Don likes to use that volcano in Washington. Just,
Right?
all I did was take rain, fill it up. It blowed out a hole.
Right.
Yeah. It changed the whole area around there. But that wasn't water, that was lava.
That is true.
That burnt
Yeah.
Now,
all that up.
here's something that's interesting I'd like to bring up.
Do it.
These big old craters you got out west, all this had to happen after a flood. If that's the case, and as big as they are, you know it's going to affect the worldwide. It's going to block out the sun, just like a volcano will.
For that area.
What would
That's true, actually. Yeah.
that would,
He's right. He's right.
That would have an effect, probably even in the Middle East.
He is right. Good point.
Now, if you had that to happen before God created man, it ain't gonna hurt man. Because that will affect vegetation.
And the craters, you're talking about an asteroid or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're-
Yeah.
The ones they claim killed all the dinosaurs.
Well, I've never seen an asteroid hit anything in my lifetime. I've never seen an asteroid hit anything.
Ain't nobody claims.
So
Ain't nobody claims seen that asteroid
really,
hit that,
and
hit
so
that hole. So,
how do you know that's what it was?
because the shape, the way it's dug out, and it's
It
on
doesn't
flat,
prove it was an asteroid.
it's on flat ground too.
Asteroids are all
Something-
different shapes.
Something
Oh,
had
yeah.
It
something
doesn't,
had to impact the Earth.
not
make it.
necessarily.
Yeah, in that case it does.
God may have put that hole in it.
Well, if that's the case,
That's what I'm saying. How you gonna prove anything different? God did it however it was there. What if He created the land with that hole already there?
Yeah.
well, I think God
What
created
if the
that.
flood didn't change anything?
I think He created that hole there because He put an asteroid there.
I agree with that too.
Because there is an asteroid belt not
Yeah.
far out past the Earth.
But I ain't never seen one of them fall. They're in their pattern and they stay in their pattern.
No, they can come out of they'll come out of that orbit.
But they never come even close to the Earth.
Not since man's been on it, it hadn't. And I think that's the providence of God.
Yeah, I
He-
agree. It is. God created it.
He ain't gonna let another one hit it. Not no big one like that again. Not until man's gone.
Well, I'm just saying, most of all, it says this is how you believe, because you can never prove that there even was a flood using what we're using here. The Bible said there was, and you can take the scripture and break it down any way you want as to whether it was a global or a regional or whatever. It's all goes back to what you believe.
Yeah.
And you're always gonna have one. It's gonna be one or
Oh,
the
yeah.
other.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
So,
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Because we all know sitting here in this room, God did it. Whether it was an asteroid that made that, or whether it was a global flood or a regional flood, God did it.
Yeah. True.
see,
It's got nothing to do with salvation.
but you see, you also got to go a little bit further into the hole it made.
Mm-hmm.
Take a look at the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how many?
Yeah.
That has plenty of craters that's been bombarded.
Yeah.
If that's what it was.
Now,
Still say, we don't know if it was or not. We've never
Haven't
seen
seen
a crater hit anything.
you can't say nothing about the moon though, because there's no flood up there.
Yeah. Yeah, there again. So,
However, this
as
is.
far as we know, there was never a flood on the moon. I don't know.
However, this.
If we got craters here, there's craters there. We got this kind of stuff here.
This
and-
is
All
just
that
a
stuff
theory,
happened on the
though.
moon, and man come to the moon so he could get away from what he's going to do to the moon.
And now you got that rover on Mars. If you look at those photographs that's coming back from Mars, it looks like that.
Yeah.
So, you know, how you gonna prove anything?
True.
What do you think, Marquez?
He wants to learn how to play the banjo.
Well, we're going to end that session right there.
All right, sounds good.
You better go
Good way
to
to end it.
Not yet. Huh?
Good way to end it.